third round of Russia-Ukraine talks starts in Geneva as strikes continue. Russian and Ukrainian delegations are meeting in Geneva for the latest round of US-brokered talks, a week before the fourth anniversary of Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Expectations for a breakthrough remain low, as Moscow has not wavered from its maximalist demands for Ukrainian territory. Russia's strikes on Ukraine are continuing on a nightly basis, further damaging the country's already battered power grid as subzero temperatures continue. Hours before the delegations met in Switzerland, Moscow carried out a large combined aerial attack on Ukraine, hitting 12 regions with 400 drones and almost 30 missiles. At least 3 people were killed. The latest attack showed the extent to which Russia disregards peace efforts, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andrii Sybiha said. Russia said its air defenses had repelled more than 150 drones, while an oil refinery caught on fire after a Ukrainian drone strike. Tuesday's talks are mediated by Steve Witkoff, Donald Trump's special envoy, and Jared Kushner, the U.S. president's son-in-law. Ukraine is represented by National Security Council Secretary Rustem Umerov and President Volodymyr Zelenskys' chief of staff, Kyrylo Budanov. The Russian delegation includes President Vladimir Putin's aide Vladimir Medinsky and members of the military intelligence figures. "I don't think we should expect any news today," said Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, adding the talks would continue on Wednesday. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, Trump on Tuesday said Ukraine had better come to the table fast. Trump has previously signaled his impatience with the lack of swift progress in solving the 4-year conflict. Russia occupies roughly 20% of Ukraine, including large parts of the eastern Donbas region. The Kremlin wants Ukraine to hand over the rest of the region, which Ukraine has ruled out. For Kyiv, robust security guarantees from the West, including the US, must come before any settlement with Russia can be agreed. At least 3 energy workers were killed near the frontline city of Slavyansk in Monday's overnight attacks, Ukraine's Deputy Energy Minister Artem Nekrasov said. A further 9 people, including children, were injured across the country, President Zelensky said. More than 10 residential buildings and railway infrastructure damaged. Russia must be held to account for its aggression, he wrote on X, adding for peace to be real and just, action must target the sole source of this aggression. Kyiv said 12 regions were hit, damaging infrastructure and leaving thousands without power in the southern port city of Odessa. DTEK, the country's largest private energy firm, said power infrastructure in the city had suffered incredibly serious damage, adding it would take a long time to return to a working condition. Ukraine is facing an acute energy crisis after months of relentless Russian attacks on its infrastructure and as it struggles through a freezing winter. It launched its own volley of attacks on Russia overnight. Officials said a fire broke out at the Ilsky oil refinery in the southern Krasnodar region after a drone strike. A reservoir storing oil products also caught fire. The border region of Belgorod continued to come under attack, with Ukraine launching dozens of drones and causing significant damage of power infrastructure. These latest discussions follow last month's trilateral talks in Abu Dhabi, which were the first three-way between Russia, Ukraine, and the US since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion of its neighbor in February 2022. They ended with no breakthrough, although the first prisoner of war exchanges in months took place shortly after. The civil rights leader visited the city to encourage black and ethnic minority Brits to register to vote. What to know about the two firms' blockbuster battle to control Warner Brothers Discovery? The troops, who landed at an airfield in Bauchi State, will not take part in combat operations, officials say. Ireland's export performance was heavily influenced by U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs policy. Billy Steinberg, who has died at the age of 75, co-wrote Madonna's 1984 chart topper Like a Virgin. Copyright 2026 BBC. The BBC is not responsible for the content of external sites. Read about our approach to external linking. You have reached the end of our in-depth report. For more deep dives into global affairs and breaking news updates, please subscribe to Neuron News Global and enable all notifications. Stay informed, stay ahead. See you in the next broadcast.